All right, welcome back to another video tour of San Luis Obispo County. And today we are doing it. We are doing something kind of crazy here. We are heading in to the most northeastern rural reaches of all of San Luis Obispo County. And in fact, we'll be dipping into South Monterey County a little bit also. So right now I'm sitting in downtown Shandon, and from here we're gonna head out way into Parkfield. If you haven't heard of Parkfield, the big thing that Parkfield is known for is that's where the San Andreas Fault is very, very active. So if you took a geology class back in the day, then maybe you've heard of it. Population is extremely small. I think there are actually less than 10 residents there year round. And then from there, we're gonna head arc all the way back around to San Miguel. There's more happening in San Miguel than there is in Shandon, and there is in Parkfield for sure. A lot more to talk about there, real estate wise. Okay, so funny little story here. Before, a couple days ago, 2 days ago, I think, I was doing a little bit of research to make sure I know what the heck I'm talking about with real estate out here. And I pulled up our MLS and was looking at Parkfield, and I figured I better go back 2 years so I can get some good data on what's happening out here. Guess how many sales happened in Parkfield in the last 2 years? That are recorded in the MLS, that is. 2. Okay, so 2 years, there are 2 recorded sales in Parkfield. And one of them, I think, was around somewhere in around 100 acres, and that sold for $600,000, and that was just farmland. And then the other one that sold was over 1,000 acres. It was kind of a hunting and recreation property, had this cool old cabin on it with a couple of bedrooms and a bathroom, totally off the grid, of course. But that one sold for over $1 million. But that's the kind of thing that you're looking at way out here. If you're not looking for kind of like, you know, an entry-level home in town in Shandon or in San Miguel, which there is a fair amount of, you're looking at huge acreage. And so I guess the question that you're probably wanting to ask me right now is like, but why create this video, right? So I'm not going to sell very much real estate from being out here, that's for sure. And it's going to take quite a bit of time. This is going to be a lot of driving. But it's a part of the county. And one of the things that makes San Luis Obispo so special is the fact that it's the Central Coast. It's right in the middle, and it's kind of like this forgotten part of California. And one of the things that makes it so neat, there's all these small little towns, right? There's a Atascadero, Paso, San Luis Obispo, Arroyo Grande, and they're all pretty small, you know, like less than 50,000 for sure. I think a lot of the little towns around here hover kind of right around that 30,000 population mark or less. But that's not super unique to a lot of, you know, the state of California. You know, you go up to the Bay Area or down south and there's lots of these little towns, but they're all kind of like packed together, one after the next, one after the next, one after the next, until you get to kind of the metro areas. And here it's just like you have these little towns and then nothing, right? So just wide open space from here all the way to Fresno or Bakersfield, I-5 basically. You know, and then you go to the west of us to Morro Bay, and you run to the ocean, right? And you go to the south of us, and there's nothing all the way until once you get past Santa Maria, it's, you know, wide open space until you get to like Solvang and Santa Barbara, places like that. So just kind of a neat opportunity to get to know what is the surrounding area, what's like our buffer area at the outer edges of our county. So yes, we're gonna head out and go hang out with we'll probably see some wild boar, some turkeys out there, lots of birds, and I'm hoping that maybe there's some nice long stretches of newly paved road out there so I can get my skateboard out. Because it's been like one of my dreams used to be when I would ride around going to old friend's house and whatever, would be able to like bring my skateboard with me and skateboard down these long, beautiful, open, rolling hills. And maybe today's my day. Anyway, so we're gonna go take a tour around Shandon right now. It's not gonna take very long. Real estate here, like, so in town, what you're looking at is like entry-level housing. There's not a lot of like newer construction or higher end, anything with modern finishes. You can get into like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, like the high 400s, middle 500s. You'll see a lot of. You can't. There is actually a small little block of new construction over kind of on the far east side, and you can spend $700,000 over there for like a newer construction home. But tiny little town, entry-level housing, and yeah, there's not much here. Little market, little Mexican market over here. There's a Caltrans station. There's a Cal Fire, and there's a little park. That's about it. All right, heading out of San Miguel, and hopefully that gives you a nice little representation of what that little town looks like. The in-town areas of it anyway. As you head out towards the outskirts of town, then you can run into some like 5, 10, 15 acre parcels out there. And of course, then you're gonna, the price point's gonna push up a little bit into, the 700-800 range, something like that. And then from there, it just, the parcels just get huge quickly, hundreds and thousands of acres. Look for streets like road names like Bitterwater, which is actually further east outside of town. Look for Shell Creek Road, look for McMillan Canyon Road, and yeah, thousands of acres out there. You could spend millions of dollars and just be completely off the grid. From here all the way on out to like the Carrizo Plains out there, it's just nothing but wide open space. In the springtime after big rains, the wildflowers out in those areas are really kind of unparalleled. One of the best places in the country, in the state, to go see wildflowers. So go check that out. Shell Creek Road is one of those areas, and then out in the Carrizo Plains. Yeah, go take a look out there. And then on the other side of the highway, there's some huge parcels out there also. It's a great area. I actually have a handful of friends that have lived out in Shandon. And then family friends that have, been kind of like homesteading out there for years. All right, so I'm just, I don't know, maybe a third of the way between Highway 46 and Parkfield proper right now. Right at the corner of McMillan Canyon Road and Shalom Valley Road. And I tell you what, it is absolutely incredible out here. A little while ago I was mentioning that it's mostly browned out and there's not so many trees. But man, I haven't been out here for a while, and I've honestly kind of forgotten about how the hillsides out here are just dotted with these giant oaks. And so it's like the lowlands out here are all pretty flat and sparse. But then, man, as you head out into the hills, like out here in this direction, the elevation gets dramatically higher and the characteristic of the landscape changes significantly. Anyway, not a whole heck of a lot going on out here. Occasional car passing by, as is probably pretty common. You see that McMillan Canyon Road is closed to through traffic. It does run all the way back over to Highway 46 and then across Highway 46. And I don't know how far it goes out there, a long way. But anyway, it is outstanding out here. Just beautiful. And we really just left Highway 46 on our way out to Parkfield, so a lot more of this coming up. So of course I'm shooting right into the sun for this, so the footage is going to be terrible, but we'll get the drone up in the air maybe. So there's a herd of elk out here. Okay, so I made it to Parkfield, and I have a secret to let you in on. I have actually never been to the little town of Parkfield before, and it is amazing. I've been out here into the area a couple of times. The furthest I've ever made it out though was Turkey Flat Road, which is actually just down the road from here. And so this is my first time here, and holy mackerel, is it a cool little place. I've always wanted to come out, and the only excuse I've ever had was to come to the Mother's Day Bluegrass Festival, which is an annual event out here. But there's always other things happening on Mother's Day, and I never have ended up making it out. In the beginning of the video, I think I said that Parkfield is, the population is around 10. I got that wrong. It's actually 18 is what the sign says coming in. So across the street over here you got Parkfield Lodge, which looks like a really fun place to come and stay. I mean, it is so beautiful and quiet out here. This would be a great place to just come and hang out. And then on the other side here we have the V6 Ranch, Parkfield Cafe, earthquake capital of the world, of course. Yeah, how neat. Like, for real, the cowboy side of California. Oh yeah, so look, there's a little sign back there. So this is where the Parkfield Bluegrass Festival is every Mother's Day. Man, now that I've been out here, I think I'm gonna have to make it a point to make it to that Bluegrass Festival. It's so much more wooded than I expected it to be. You know, there's just birds. I'm not sure if you can hear that in the background, but it's just water running from a fountain over there, I think. Then just birds in the trees. So then there's a Cal Fire station down at the end there, and that does it. I just walked the whole main area of Parkfield. Took me a little while to get out here after running into those elk out there. That was a surprise. Holy mackerel, you know, like I've go out in these rural parts of SLO, and the most wildlife that I usually see is some wild pigs or some deer or turkey or whatnot. That's the first time I've seen, first time in a long time I've seen a nice big herd of elk like that, especially with those big racks. Holy mackerel, that was beautiful. Anyway, Parkfield, not going to spend a whole heck of a lot of time here because, like, if you're looking for real estate, yeah, I mean, if you want big acreage and to be left alone all the time, it's a great place for it. But yeah, if you're looking for an excuse to come out, Mother's Day weekend, Bluegrass Festival, maybe I'll see you there. Okay, so that trip into Parkfield was quite a bit more fun and exciting than I thought it was going to be. Of course, learned that Parkfield has a population of 18, not 10, like I mentioned a little while ago. But man, it's just like, I expected it to be kind of just like hot and stark, but just trees everywhere, birds chirping, people walking around, going to the lodge there, super friendly. And yeah, anyway, Parkfield, I'm coming back for sure. I can't believe I haven't been here. I'd love to come out here and just like spend a couple of days just hanging out and, you know, just driving around, going for walks. Underrated for sure, I would say. Parkfield is awesome. Can't believe I've never been out here before. Unbelievable. You know, like I said, Turkey Flat Road is the farthest I've ever made it. And then San Miguel going the other way. I think we're about 25 miles from San Miguel. But man, beautiful out here. But got to move on. Heading over to San Miguel next. Who knows what we're going to stop and see next. I was expecting to see some wild boar out here, or something like that, some other kind of wildlife. But yeah, maybe we'll run into some of those coming up here soon. Here I am crossing the San Andreas Fault. I guess this is it right here. It just looks kind of like a riverbed more than anything else. So anyway, on the road again, 25 miles to San Miguel. All right, so heading towards San Miguel on Vineyard Canyon Road. So we left Parkfield and then we traveled way up, gained a bunch of elevation, windy road all the way up, and then back down the other side. And probably in San Miguel addresses at this point, just crossing by Cross Country Road here. Man, it was beautiful driving over that ridge top. Had all these big rock bands up there, and digger pine trees mixed in with these beautiful kind of smaller oaks. And man, it still is super green up there. So again, just surprisingly beautiful passing through that area. So definitely recommend going and maybe spending a night over in Parkfield at the lodge there. I think it's called the V6 Ranch, and then the Parkfield Lodge is there. So or maybe just making a day trip out there, but maybe make sure that the little restaurant there is going to be open so you can stop and get a little bit to eat, because it is quite a drive out here. Just pack a lunch, whatever. Anyway, definitely recommend coming on out and taking a look. Maybe catch sight of some elk or some other wildlife. But yeah, heading back towards San Miguel. And so the town of San Miguel, there's not a whole lot to it, but you know, being out here in the countryside, like if you're looking for acreage, and staying relatively close to Paso, there's some good opportunity for that. Like you can, you know, say like if it was me and I was going to move to San Miguel, I would look for like, you know, like a 10-acre piece of land with a relatively upgraded modern house on it, maybe 2,000 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath, maybe 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It's something I'd be interested in, and you could probably get into something like that for under $1.5 million. Around that price point, I'd say. You know, if you're sticking to around like, you know, within 20 minutes to town. You know, and then of course you can find just big acreage properties also, you know, just bare land, stuff like that, if you want to develop it on your own, or, you know, plant grapes or do some other kind of like farm, ag type stuff. Of course, there's other big ranches out here that you could, you know, recreate, hunt on, all kinds of opportunities out here for all kinds of different stuff. Spend as much as you want. You know, you want to buy 1,000 acres, plan on spending, you know, millions of dollars. And then in town, or like closer to town, you could probably, you know, you can find smaller parcels of land, you know, even closer to town, and pretty affordable, right? So you're on a half acre of land or an acre of land closer to town. You can find little neighborhoods, you know, dispersed throughout kind of the outskirts of San Miguel, and maybe spend, you know, $6.5, $7, up to $800,000. And then as you go into town, it's kind of like how Shandon was, maybe a little bit nicer. There's some townhomes in there that you can buy that are relatively new. And then, you know, smaller homes, nothing super upgraded or super nice in there. So plan on spending around $500,000 for something like that, $600,000 for a newer or larger house. You could probably spend up towards $700,000 for a larger, you know, newer home. But yeah, there's, you know, San Miguel, not a whole heck of a lot going there. I always feel like it's going to be like more of an up and coming little area because it's just so close to Paso, and Paso's done so well over the years. One of the big things that the North County of San Luis is known for in the summertime, you know, like everybody talks about the heat, how hot it is, but man, the evenings and the nights up here, like if you're going to go to Vina Robles and catch a concert or some kind of show there, man, the North County evenings are just outstanding because it's just warm, you know, it's like in the 70s, maybe, you know, as it gets later in the evenings into the 60s, but, you know, you're hanging out in a t-shirt, having drinks, having dinner. It really is a really cool, like, kind of summer evening lifestyle. Anyway, yeah, headed to San Miguel. We'll get into town there, and we'll wrap this thing up. Thanks so much for joining me. It's been a fun trip. Hopefully between here and town we'll find a good stretch of nice pavement. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe it. I just came across an incredible section of beautifully paved road at the perfect incline in the most incredible setting. This is like a childhood dream come true for me. Legit. I hit the mother lode for rural San Luis Obispo skateboarding. Amazing. All right, well, wish I had a little bit more time to go all the way back to the top of that hill where this started, but just running a little short on time. As you can see, sun's starting to go down, and I gotta get back and help with the kiddos and so forth. Woo! This is gonna be a pretty good ride for me. Not so steep, but steep enough. The last thing I need is for somebody to come ripping around one of these corners trying to get home back to their ranch. Anyway, glad I found, you know, the one thing that made this whole trip complete. This has been awesome. It's been a great day. I'm totally shocked. I've kind of been like putting this off a little bit for, you know, doing this video because it's like, oh my God, I got to go way out to Parkfield. But man, totally worthwhile. Super stoked. What a day. All right, just take a quick buzz through these townhomes I mentioned earlier. San Miguel, just on the east side of 101 in downtown here. So nice sidewalks, you know, all close together, but relatively affordable living just outside of Paso. Not bad. Nice curb appeal, nice and clean. Small lot sizes, of course. Anyway, a little taste of that. Then just on the other side of River Road here, kind of more typical of what you'll see in the rest of San Miguel. Single family residences, still with sidewalks, so forth. But you know, older homes, smaller homes. The other side of Main Street here, closer to 101, old church there. You know, a lot of San Miguel's like this. It just looks a little bit on the kind of the rundown side, you know. Like I said, I've always kind of felt like one of these days it's going to be kind of an up and coming little town, but not yet. You know, but some affordable housing over here, some apartments there. And then we can pretty quickly roll through Main Street downtown here. Looks like we got the Sagebrush Days Parade coming up here. So what do we got downtown here? We got the 805 Mega Discount, San Miguel Laundry, Post Office. What's that? Maybe an old bus stop. Got some kids on their bikes. And we got an elk house. Is that like a steakhouse? No, Elkhorn? Oh, that must be the bar. There's a little market. and deli. And then that really about does it for downtown. Not a whole heck of a lot going on. Here's a market and deli over here on the other side of the street. A little bit more happening over there. Look at that, Manny's Pizza. There's a pizza place right there. The Shady Rest Motel. We kind of run out there. And folks, I'm gonna pull over on the side of the road here. We're gonna wrap this up. That was awesome. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you in the next video. We are officially done with North County, so we'll have to get down, maybe do Pismo and AG next, something like that. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and we will see you in person one of these days soon, I hope.